So it's been a couple of days that Wriothesley got released, and hopefully any one of you who have pulled for him have been having a lot of fun with Wriothesley, and I myself have been testing out a lot on him too. Right, today guys, I want to have a video talking about some of the best Wriothesley teams that I have been testing him out with and having a lot of fun, and basically we'll give you a top 5 teams that Wriothesley is currently performing in. So with that guys, let's just dive right in. Now before we touch on the teams guys, there are some important notes you want to keep in mind regarding whenever you're building Wriothesley team, is that in terms of Wriothesley himself, he actually can fit in quite a lot of different teams, or I would say there are many variations that he can actually fit himself to be. So I myself have been testing out a lot in terms of his team, but in this video I will be listing the top 5 teams that I usually run with him, otherwise it will be a very long video. Furthermore, in terms of his team, I would say that Wriothesley teams are pretty expensive because many of the time he requires a number of 5-star being on his team. Other than that, it will be some of the top tier 4-star character too. So technically speaking, yes, if you want to have him perform on really nice level, you will have to invest into quite a bit of his team. Alright, and so with that, let us have a look into the teams. Team 1 features Wriothesley, Yelan, Xingqiu, and Kazuha. I would say there's going to be a double hydro or a freeze team that Wriothesley runs in, and currently this is one of his best team right now because Wriothesley is a perfect driver for both Yelan and Xingqiu. He will be able to trigger both of these character bursts consistently, therefore providing him with a lot of off-field damage. Even though we know that freeze isn't really the best elemental reaction, however it is still pretty useful. Furthermore, he can use Blizzard Strayer on this team. So for example, if you didn't really have the hunter set built and you have a very good Blizzard Strayer set, you don't really need to invest too much into his artifacts. Kazuha of course is going to be doing his usual role in terms of boosting a lot of elemental damage bonus plus crowd control and Anemo Shred for Wriothesley to further buff his damage too. Not to mention Kazuha is also able to give Yelan and Xingqiu buff as well. So yes, a pretty important character on Wriothesley team. Pretty simple rotation guys. You first start off with Wriothesley NA so that he applies cryo to Kazuha using his EQ so that he swirl cryo, and then after that it's going to be Yelan and Xingqiu doing their E skill and burst to set up, and then after that it's going to back to Wriothesley being on field doing everything that he does best. And the next team we have Wriothesley, Xingqiu, Xiangling, and Bennett, kind of like an international driver team, and I would say that this team works really well. Obviously we already have, you know, 3 of the top tier character in the game who are 4-star, and yes, since Wriothesley is a really good driver, plus he is the first cryo catalyst user, he's going to be a very good spot on this team to be able to drive Xingqiu's burst as well as applying cryo here and there for the team so that Xiangling can melt, or the other way around too. Obviously we have Xingqiu here, so he's going to be occasionally doing the vaporize here and there, so it's kind of like a mixed team here and there that works really well in terms of elemental reaction. However, you do have to invest quite a lot into your character build in terms of damage output level, because technically speaking all of these characters on the team will be doing the elemental damage reaction, and so making sure that your character being built decently high with damage output is an important thing. In terms of rotation, we first start off with Xingqiu's EQ to Bennett's EQ to Xiangling's EQ and then to Wriothesley being on the field. So team we have Wriothesley, Bennett, Shanhe, and Kazuha. This team is technically going to be focusing everything in terms of Wriothesley DPS power, where every single character on his team is going to be there focusing on buffing his damage as high as possible. Shanhe, a very important character when it comes to buffing cryo damage, and if you do happen to have a C6 Shanhe, then yes, of course Wriothesley is going to be a beast because you're technically going to always have his normal and charge attack being buffed by Shanhe, which is insane, but of course not all of us have access to her. So as long as you do have Shanhe, you should be able to have Wriothesley deal very decent damage. And yes, Bennett and Kazuha as their usual role is going to be decent good. Now something to note about this team is that since their elemental burst is very important, you do want to try to have their energy recharge level of your support character decently built. You know, like having Bennett on a Favonius Sword, Shanhe on a Fav Lance, and Kazuha if he's lacking in energy recharge department department, you can actually sacrifice a bit of his EM and give him another Favonius sword. That way, it can ensure that all of your support character burst is going to be up almost all the time. When it comes to rotation, guys, you first start off with Shanha's E hold to her Q, and then Kazuya EQ to Bennett's EQ, and then to Wriothesley being on field. Next up, we have Wriothesley, Shanha, Bennett, and Xiangling. Here we're going to be focusing on having double resonance of Cryo and Pyro, because yes, of course, Wriothesley is going to be able to make use of both of these. This once again is not only focusing on helping buffing Wriothesley damage, but also of course we have Xiangling here to help Wriothesley with doing the melt. Obviously, since this is kind of like a Wriothesley team and we want to have him do the damage, he's going to be there to do the melt, but sometimes Xiangling is going to be doing the melt instead. However, that isn't really bad, because we know Xiangling is a character that deals a lot of damage, and yes, she's going to be there doing really good melt for the team too. So overall, this team is still going to be able to perform really well. When it comes to rotation, we start with Shanha's EQ to Bennett's EQ to Xiangling's EQ, and then to Wriothesley being on the field. Next up, we have Wriothesley, Bennett, Xiangling, and Nahida. This is technically going to be a burn melt kind of team where Nahida and Xiangling is there to help sustain pyro elements being applied on the enemies, and Wriothesley is going to be there doing the melt damage. Very good team, I would say, but once again, there is going to be requiring you a lot of investment into your character, because of course Bennett and Xiangling being very good 4-star character and Nahida being a 5-star character too. Furthermore, if Nahida does have access to her BIS option, which is our lovely lamp, she's going to be able to give Wriothesley a lot of EM too, further helping him with dealing a lot of melt damage. Pretty simple rotation, guys. You first start off with Nahida's EQ to Bennett's EQ to Xiangling's EQ, and then to Wriothesley being on field. So guys, I would say that those are some of the top 5 teams for Wriothesley that I've been having a lot of fun with him. As you can see, it is pretty expensive, so yes, you do have to invest into quite a bit here and there, but of course they are free to play variant too, and technically speaking, if you can find another character that can replace the corresponding element within that team, I would say generally it's gonna be fine. So I hope that those teams I have mentioned have helped you to have more ideas in terms of building your Wriothesley, and I know that you have a lot of good team variation. So if you do have any teams that you are running with him and you find it's very good, feel free to leave it down in the comment section, guys, so that I can have more ideas of building a team surrounding him, and I love to have many variations of teams. Now guys, if you are someone who have just pulled for Wriothesley and is thinking about how to build him, then I have a very in-depth video going through his build, and I'm sure it will be a very helpful video for you. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, as I post a lot of Genshin Impact video and it's going to be very valuable for you. I really appreciate you guys sticking with me to this part of the video, and with that, I wish you a super day, and I will catch you on my next video.